questions and allow me to explain some things? Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, you can go wherever you were going, but
No. I think that where I was going is exactly where you wanted to end up at. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? For the most part. Yeah, back like cook crack. Let me run this commercial real quick. Y'all can hit the link in the bio. Make sure that you grab your tickets to the upcoming webinar. When in Rome, Part 3. It's going to be epic and prophetic. You know, as we get closer and closer to the days, I'm going to be laying out real-time prophecies that are going to manifest on the way to the lecture. And then the lecture will be laying out Pope Pablo prophecies that will emanate and play out, you know, for the rest of, until we do the next one, for the most part. I'm confident enough in my prophecies to know that. Hence the fact that I told y'all, I said, oh, the Super Bowl is going to have everything to do with Rome. Well, let's take a look at the layout of what it's leading up to, right, before we even get there. Because, you know, we don't ever miss. That's the beauty of it. Let's look at this real quick. We can run this commercial while we get everybody back in the building. No, not that one.
Yo, what's cracking? It's the woman and assassin. You heard what happened in Cali on the Lunar New Year? Look here. Why the sheriff was named Luna too? Reminds me of that Lunar UST collapse that happened last May during the Scorpio blood moon lunar eclipse. You know, the same one that took down the blood young thug? By the way, yeah, so what's this connection between lunar and terror? And what message does Saturday night's incident brings? It was the last night of the Bengals' New Year, and the next day, the Bengals finished off the Bills. And mind you, last year on the 44th day, the Bengals lost the Super Bowl to the LA Rams in LA. So what potential effect does this have for the upcoming Super Bowl? How deep does this rabbit hole go in this year of the rabbit? Tune in tonight to Melanin Monday as we warm up for our upcoming lecture, When in Rome 3, where we bring all of these points home and give you that food for thought to nourish your domes. Peace. You don't find that suspicious. You don't find that suspicious. That suspicious.
One more again. Yeah, like I said, I had to preface this conversation with the commercial because, you know, we can't exclude any lunar activity with what we talking about. You feel me? We can't make the separation of the two because they go hand in hand. They have everything to do with one another, right? This aspect of this feminine principle, this divine feminine principle. So when we left off, we were speaking about the indoctrination program, right? And people are what they've been exposed to for the most part. You know what I'm saying? We all have programming, and the programming is different through the generations. So a lot of us find ourselves bumping heads because we grew up in different generations on different programming. As a child, I bumped head with my parents because their programming was different. It wasn't necessarily that we are quote unquote different people. We just been programmed different, right? I think that you're a blank slate. And case in point, you just showed me a child that's been born in a box or a cage that's lived to like 80 years old. And whatever that person is, because whatever you're exposed to in society is going to affect you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you're exposed to in society is going to affect you, unless you like Jesus and you're affecting your environment only and nothing affects you, and you just come here pure and that's how you leave. You know, you may be loved when you come here, but that's not how you're ultimately going to end up. You're going to be affected by your environment. You're going to be affected by your society, right? You're going to take on some bullshit traits. And then how you hold fast to the things that you consider to be idealistic and virtuous, that's foundational in you, whatever you get that idea from, right? Whenever your mind kicks in and it tells you what your standards are, because what is that, part of your body or is that part of your mind? And is your mind part of your body? So, again, I be talking and posing these questions. I really would like some feedback, because I don't want to just be talking to myself, but where does a person develop their moralistic ideals from? Can you give me some feedback on that? What you think?
Where you develop your...
Where you develop these things that they say about morals and ideals?
I think that comes from what you value.
So
what
that's
you place
right.
Your value.
So then that's conditioning as well. Because how would you know what you value? You came here with that energy, that idea. All of that deals with exposure, presumably, or you in your natural mind, as when you was 1 year old and 2 years old, you had an attitude.
I guess a little bit of both, because as I've been told, as a child, I always had this inclination for independence, and I always wanted to know why. I wanted to know the origins of things. I wanted to know, if you say that's what it is, explain to me why it's that way. And so I think that I've carried that throughout my life.
Right.
And even with the decisions that I made, even as a young person, as a child, shit like that has always been based off of my internal.
Right, because some people are saying it starts from home, but talk to the ratchet parents now. They be like, I gave birth to this little nigga and they don't even eat meat or drink milk. And this little baby's like raising me up. So they giving birth to star seeds that are definitely not of them. They're not of their energy. They're not of their attitude. And the ones of us that was born that was rebellious against religion, we was born into families where, not me myself, but people that tell me like, oh nah, I was raised all around that, and that was bullshit. I wasn't going for none of it. So again, what is it? Is it conditioning, or is it a precondition? Was you prepackaged with this, and where did you get it from? Is it based on your astrological conditioning and rearing as well? Like, the way that the stars align, did they give you this energy? Did they give you this attitude? Look, case in point, when I study human design, right? Human design teaches that there's two personalities or two crystals to make you up. One is form and one is design. Right? Maybe I'm saying it wrong, because design and form might be the same thing, but the other one is personality.
Yeah.
Right? So the design and the form is like the shit that makes my body. And that starts from inception, from the womb. 88 days before I manifest and I'm born, though, they say that your personality comes into your body like a spirit. And then that starts giving you the inclinations about who you ultimately going to become. A parent nurtures that. And if it's not consistent with your programming, you're going to rebel. Hence the fact, why do children rebel? What do they know about to rebel? Because some of them rebel before they get exposure to externalized, quote unquote, conditions where they're like, nah, I got to go find this thing, right? This my nodal point that's calling me. I'm finna leave this motherfucking puritanical situation and go ratchet and go pagan.
And that was definitely me.
Right? And go secular.
And I think, because I was definitely a child like that. And a lot of the stuff, I always felt one way, internally. But making my observations and seeing how adults acted and how they would say one thing, but their actions were completely different. Because as a child, I paid close attention to actions and a lot of nonverbal communication, like body language, how adults responded to certain situations and words and shit like that based off of their body language, things that were nonverbal. And I remember at a certain point, my mom, like, she would tell me, like, damn, like, she didn't understand why I did the things that I did. And she would kind of, ask me questions to understand. But then at a certain point, she would just, always tell me, like, no matter what you do, always do it because you want to do it. Don't ever let nobody or anything make you feel like you have to do something. But if you want to go ahead and do that, because obviously I see that you're the type of person that when you want to do something, you do it. You're going to find your way to do it. So if I'm going to tell you anything as your mother, and I remember my mom wrote me a long-ass letter telling me that how she felt she was my guide. She was just here to be my guide. She couldn't control me. She couldn't necessarily, like, she told me what to do. She did her part as a mom, but she always felt like she was my spiritual guide here in this realm. And she was just like, if you do anything.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Does that terrify you as being a potential parent?
What?
That you may give birth to a child that wants to just go and do them, and you can only operate as a guide? Like, how does that feel in your chest when you think about it?
I have mixed emotions because I feel like as a parent, I understand wanting to protect your child from your experiences, but at the same time, I know that you can't. Your constant restriction might just push them into that very experience that you're trying to shield them from. So, and I understood that as, a person myself, that other people might not have understood the decisions and choices that I made. I knew why I was doing it. Mm-hmm. So for her to have that level of trust with me, she may not understand why I'm choosing to do certain shit, but she respects it, and she, what's the word? She respects it. She kind of honors it and trusts me, and has to kind of relinquish that within herself and trust me to go on ahead and, have those experiences for myself. But she always left me with that foundation of, 1, respect yourself at all times. 2, whatever you do, you're doing it because you want to do it. If you could live with yourself doing that, cool. If you can't, that's on you, because at the end of the day, she always tell me, you are your God. You're the one that you have to answer to. You may not tell me the truth, but you're going to have to tell yourself the truth. And you're going to have to live with that. So that's always stuck with me throughout my whole life. Any decision that I made, I knew that, all right, this may be kind of stupid, but if I can live with myself, I'm going to do it. And then whichever way it turned out, it was something that I had to deal with within myself. It was something that I had to reflect on and determine, okay, why do I do these things? What made me want to do it, or what did I get from it? Did I get what I was looking for? Whatever that case is. And it taught me to trust myself.
Right.
And it taught me to have some, to understand what my real values were. So that's why I'm able to make these observations to say, well, one thing I could tell, I know exactly what it looks like when somebody is doing something because they feel like they have to versus if they want to. And that's why, I refrain from speaking sometimes because I don't want to sound judgmental, but I know what it looks like because I know what it feels like. I've been there. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. So I know what it looks like when somebody is doing something because they feel like they need to do it, as opposed to this is something they genuinely want to do because they have to have that experience.
All right, so for the men out there, I'm going to ask you something real personal. Are you more fearful of losing a parent or having a child? Anybody care to add? Because sometimes parenthood could be very a daunting experience, thought of it. You know what I'm saying? Especially like when you grow up and you don't have that navigation, that focus, that direction, that guide. You know what I'm saying? You haven't figured out your own personal roadmap. Yeah, and then losing a parent, that's terrifying.
Yeah, man.
That's terrifying. But it's like, I haven't met, I meet some, and then some people really don't think about it that deep. But it's like some people are not that selfish enough to be like, I ain't figured this shit out, but I'm gonna bring a whole nother life into the world, and then add on to not having certain things figured out. And then people tell me, well, you automatically start figuring shit out once you do have a child.
That's what a lot of people say.
You know what I'm saying? And I've heard that so many
A lot of
times.
people say that the children teach you how to be a parent.
Yeah, the children teach you direction of how to be a parent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so, that's an honest conversation I would love to have one day on a broader platform. I'll bring a whole box of Kleenex out, you know what I'm saying? And we could get past our fears and things and speak our heart, you know what I mean? Because these things, real talk, is fucking, some of them are terrifying, you know? Especially in this day and time. I still have both of my parents, and it'd be a blessing and a curse sometimes.
But I also think it's important to have a conversation and have an understanding about parents and children and them not being a complete separate thing, because I think a lot of the times people perceive their children as being so much different from them, but it's like, no, they came from you. A lot of that's a part of them, especially the parts you don't like, are parts of yourself that you want to pretend don't exist anymore. And I see that so much with parents and children, and that's why I strive so hard in my life to make those connections with my parents, because as I grow older, I understand them a little bit more.
So if your children come from your triple stages of darkness, 270 days, your children are your shadow self?
That's what I think. I honestly do. Because a lot of
that remind. Let me play this out. Let me give y'all some of this. I'm listening.
A lot of, and as I've had these conversations with my parents, throughout my life, they began to express to me how I am, like, fearlessly, what I'm fearlessly willing and able to do. These are the things that during the time that they conceived me, that they were into.
Wow.
So even like me and
look, all right, I'm listening. Go ahead. I'm putting something together.
Whole, like, spirituality aspect, and me like getting into all different kinds of shit that my parents would be like, oh my God, no, be careful. They're worried about how people are going to perceive me, how I might feel of other people's perception.
Yo, that's deep.
They're like,
I'm about to do a whole motherfucking interview series because, look, think about Keke Palmer, right? Mm-hmm. That's the one I'm talking about. Remember she said she had the acne issue?
Yeah.
And she said she had the baby, she got pregnant, and all her acne went away, right? I was in a relationship with a young lady who got caught in the World Trade Center during 9/11, and she exhumed the white smoke, and she got mad sick. She was pregnant at the time, right? She had birth, and all of the sickness went away, but it went into the baby, and the baby had an acute form of eczema because it had morgellons in it, and morgellons are the nanoparticles. CIA they had offices in the World Trade Center, and they had a lot of secret technology and weaponry. So when they destroyed that stuff, all of that stuff went into the smoke, into the clouds. So this child had an acute case of that. So I'm just saying that to say I have observed in real time how you pass things to your children that may be the things that are unwanted by you. And those things also what are considered your shadow selves. The things that are not warranted, the things that you may be ignoring, the things that may manifest later as disease because you suppressed them so long. Remember, because they all become emanations of your parasympathetic nervous system,
right,
your endocrine system, so they pop up on your skin and shit like that.
Right.
And then when you pass or you give them to children, and the children, right, by proxy of our evolutionary process, they become the alchemists of those things to conquer those things to become better, because what don't kill you is going to make you stronger, but your children is the one that come with that antidote. Ooh, and with that,
like I would, tell them as well, because very much so, it's like this is your second chance to really I don't want to use the term correct, but for lack of a better term, correct the things that, again, like you said, you're trying to ignore. Like, sometimes people will have like a few kids. You might have 3 kids, and there's two that's, amazing kids, smart kids, You may even say, oh, they get that from me, they get that from their father. But that third kid that's just belligerent is a motherfucker that just goes against everything you talk about. They ruining your whole image. You want to, and you telling everybody, oh no, I do my best to discipline him and he just don't listen. And you want to just write them off as the bad kid. And then come to find out you was that same exact kid. That was you. And yes, right. You grew up, but it's like your Saturn. Did you really learn that lesson? And if you did, that's how you show it, by how you raise that child, just like Avatar.
And you have to be very mindful even of the day of conception. Like, there's times when we might not see on the best terms, right? And we go to sleep. And let me use a third example. I'm going to use You're starting to look at me.
Because I'm trying to figure out where you're going with
That
this.
I would not recommend that somebody lay down and have intercourse with their mate when they're not in the best mental of agreements, because your energy, right, is going to directly affect your energy, or you know what I'm saying?
Energy, but it could be just your mentality alone, I feel.
But that goes into your energy.
Because it might even, we could have, it could be, we could either be on good terms or bad terms. But there's still parts of you subconsciously that you may not have ever expressed to me that I would never know about. And then we have a kid and they like this. And I'm like, where the fuck did that child get that from?
Right.
Just like when we watched Dahmer.
Right.
And the father was like, damn, I feel fucked up. I understand, because when I was your age, I used to think about shit like that.
Right.
You
Suppression,
feel me?
and then
so it's like
the mother was taking the drugs.
Right.
So that was exasperating the situation.
Right.
And you don't even know what you created.
And again, this child as well is still its own person, but it's also something that was created. It was coded to, by 2 people, by 2 beings that y'all both have something that you put into this child, and then this child has its own personality as well. But like I always told my parents, I always thank them for being so transparent with me, because it helps me understand parts of myself that I normally wouldn't be comfortable enough to say to them, because I wouldn't want them to judge me. But when I do, and they be like, damn, right around the time that we conceived you, I was doing X, Y, and Z, or I used to do that. Shit, I found out my dad used to love to smoke weed when I had no idea. I've never seen my dad smoke weed in my entire life.
Right.
And so, when I started smoking, it was something that I kind of hid a little bit. I didn't want niggas to know and look at me differently. But then when I came, damn, I remember when I was around your age, I used to always just want my weed and my music. That's all I did was weed and music. I'm like, shit, that's what I do. And that shit take me to a whole nother place. Even case in point, there's some times in a month, I don't really, I don't time it, but there's certain periods where I just get quiet. I don't say nothing. I don't do nothing. I just get quiet. And I've always been like that. And my mom used to be scared. And she would, call my father and be like, I don't know what's wrong with her. She do that same shit that you be doing. You just be, she just go quiet. She don't want nothing. She don't say nothing. She just be quiet. And my father was like, you know what? I completely understand. I did the same shit. But with him, it was, he used to have this thing with his father. His father used to drop knowledge on him. And they would go outside, look at the stars, and his father would just drop heavy knowledge on him. And he would just be chilling, just quiet, and just taking it all in. And that became his routine monthly.
That's crazy.
At the beginning of every month, he would just go, he would call it unplugging or detaching from it, rebooting.
My walk the dog with me on Bedford. And it was, Bedford was a little bit darker than Flatbush because it was residential. And then he would explain to me what the stars was, how to tell the difference between a star and a planet. And we would walk the dog, and that's when he would have the deep conversation. That's why I learned to listen, because I couldn't talk.
Right.
During that couldn't talk. You could only listen, because he was being too deep. And I was like, damn, this nigga's dropping it. I'm trying to catch it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and he would just, internalize and, just reflect on the information. And that just became a routine of his since he was a child. And I was born with that innately. Shit, I didn't even know why I was doing it. And my mom would ask, I'm like, I don't know, I'm fine. I'm just chilling. Like, I just need my time to kind of, I didn't even know what it was at the time. I would just,
Right.
I still do it.
The way that I can even explain that, with gematria or numerically is 44 means blood and 444 means generations.
Okay.
So generations are bloodline. So, it's like you become an extension of.
Right.
You're passing a baton on. Hence the fact it's called a family tree.
Right.
You become a branch, an extra branch to that particular tree. So, daddy took it but so far with a combination of what your mother either wanted to do or things that she may have suppressed mentally, and then you become a strange combination, a mixture of both. So you have an aspect of predetermination, and then you got a mind of your own.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Damn.
And that's what I mean. Like, you can't always, you do kind of have to just be that guide for your children, and not necessarily, and let me not speak so definitively about it because I'm not a parent yet, and I don't really have that everyday experience with a child. But as they grow, you kind of have to do that because, like, my mother always tried to shield me from a lot of experiences that she had. But it ended up pushing me into those same exact experiences. It might not have been in the same way she experienced, but I experienced those same things. So you kind of just have to, one, lead by example, because they're watching you. They may not understand the words that you speak and what you mean by them and your connotations and your nuances, but they understand your actions. That's why children act just like their parents, because they or whoever they're around, partially because they're watching you.
So this gentleman on the screen is Dan Schneider, right? And I was too grown for this period in time. I remember my younger sister used to watch Nickelodeon and stuff, and then then my nephew came and he was watching TV, and I was around different children at different times, and I seen TV progressively got a little bit weirder than when I used to grow up watching. And my parents, I'm sure they thought it was weird when we was watching it, and same for their parents if they was watching cartoons when I don't know what I don't know what they was watching in the 50s and shit like that. But my lady told me something about Dan Schneider, that he was a creep, or he was kind of like real sexually suggestive with these characters that he was engaged with. I know about Amanda Bryan. I know about Ariana Grande. And I know about the programming prior to that with Miley Cyrus and that whole particular controversy.
But even before that, he did all that. He's the one that had Nick Cannon, Keenan and Kel.
Oh.
Or when they was all dressing like LaQuisha and
so he was putting them niggas in dresses?
Yes, with the fingernails and the hair weaves, and had them acting like ratchet girl. It was a lot of weird shit. But as a child back then, it was funny to me. But like, they just came back on Netflix, and I was watching. I'm like, damn, this shit is kind of crazy. But it was a lot of weird shit going on back then with those, that he was interfacing with those children that they displayed on television, and that I've seen evolved into like this crazy thing.
So this is where the conditioning, the whole aspect of hurting people, you know what I'm saying? Did this one person, like, let's hypothetically say that he was abused when he came into the industry as a child, because somebody said that he was on
What, Good Burger?
Not Good Burger. They said they remember him from another show, right? So let's say that he can't.
Is this Ren and Stimpy too?
Ren and Stimpy, somebody said.
I hated that show. So that shit was weird as fuck.
So the way that the Hollywood thing go,
Rocco Modern Life.
You come in as a child, you get abused, and then now you production, you in charge of all of these shows. Like, let's hypothetically say someone like a Nick Cannon. Like, what if Nick Cannon got bitten as a child, and now he's in charge of creating 10, 15 other shows, which now is going to connect and touch directly several thousand people, but affect multi-millions of people, right? Through the multiple levels of programming amongst the generations, across the generations. And then you have children who are going to be, subject to that level of traumatization as well. Might just be traumatized because you're not there, right? Or may harbor your dark energy and your shadows. And you keep trying to have a better one, or run away from yourself, shit like that. These are the ways that these things can exasperate in just 1 or 2 generations and become full-blown viruses.
Especially when you're in that position of power, because I'm sure once you're there, right, you have to know. In order to be there, you have to know what the effects of what you're doing is, because that's what they teach you when you deal with advertising, marketing. They tell you how these things affect people in certain ways so that you can do what you're doing.
And I'm just, I be having these conversations. Somebody hit me the other day and they're like, man, I love this anti-hero version of you. And I'm like, I'm not going anti-hero or dark. I'm just having a real conversation. I'm not dealing in toxic positivity. We're going to explore both sides of the coin. Because look at the multiplicity factor of negativity, right? Like I said, if this dude came in when he was a child and got abused and touched, because he comes into a whole animal farm where this is what they do, then he goes and he's touching the little ones around him. Then they go and they're able to make amongst them 50 different programs. Personnel-wise, they have 100,000 people that they've been dealt with personally just from people that they deal with on set. But they're now affecting or influencing 100 million. And all of this is done under a 30-year window. According to Dr. B, you got to become so positive until your heart frequency reaches what he said, 7 gigs and shit like that, where you emanate 7.5 miles and affect everybody in your radius. That's never happened yet. Right? At least we don't know it in our lifetime, unless, some people woke up and shit are like, wow, I feel great today. But ain't nobody start flying yet. Ain't no flying carpets come through the hood. Right? They dropped one motherfucking kilo in the hood and turned the whole hood to zombies. It happened that quick, overnight, damn near. So look how fast negativity, look how fast the darkness spreads, as opposed to how challenging and how much more you have to put in, to turn the tide and get something positive registered on the scoreboard. I asked people to name me one day the white man ain't had his foot in people's ass since 1492, my bad. Just name me one day. The colonizer has not colonized or put a point on the board that he's received the L. Name me one day that the devil took a L since Adam and Eve. I'll wait. I'm going to give y'all a minute. Look, I'm going to play this video, but I want some answers. Right? Think about this shit. Somebody come back and tell me an answer. And don't tell me the day that Haiti got free either. Okay? I'll be back. But I do want some answers. I want y'all to think about this. Put some thought into it.
Is now literally degenerated to nothing. And the only thing left is that which was on the bottom, which has the most potential for birth. And that's us. We are the highest thing in the universe now. We are the only thing in the universe now, because that other energy is now going to sleep. There's nothing but us. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing but us. Because it says what? I will take the last and make it first. The last shall be first. Yeah, that's right. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. What we don't realize is that the entire celestial sphere now is given way to one power, and that power is us. That's what the deal is. Give me some questions. Got any questions? Anyway, in this book, Aeon, Jung discovered something in 1948, and he put out this book. He discovered in this book that when he studied the mysteries of Christ, he also found out that Christ in alchemy meant the word lapis, which meant stone. And when he broke down the combination of stone and lapis, he also found out that it made a perfect melanin molecule. We come to find out in actuality when Jung put this book out, the next year after Jung gave some of his last works and final summation of what the Christ thing was based on his scientific measurement, they came up with the word melanin from another word called melanosis, which is in Jung's work, the next year. So, in his particular part, the structure and dynamics of self in this particular book, Aeon, he basically undeniably, in so many words, says that melanin in so many words is the Christ. Is the actual Christ. As well as the word chaos is a form of the Christhood. He also goes in this particular book and talks about the Antichrist, which is nothing but the shadow of Christ. If you got a light, if you put your hand up, you got a damn shadow. So that what you call, the biblical scriptures have been misinterpreted. That what you call the false Messiah is just talking about the darker side, which everything comes from the darker side, which is the true Messiah. These words have been broken down into language to mean something totally different than what they really meant. And all because they took this whole Satan thing and ran with it and blew it all out of proportion until we have no concepts of the underworld. Now, there's one other thing you must understand. On Art Bell, the white boys came out before Christmas and is now literally degenerated to nothing. And the only thing left is that which was on the bottom, which has the most.
Yeah. So, y'all had a good 3 to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any answers for me yet? Does anybody have any answers for me? Because, if we can free ourselves from religious indoctrination and misinterpretation of scripture, because all of that shit got misinterpreted and the people who had a clear-cut agenda created a fairy tale, and motherfuckers are stuck in a fairy tale to this day where they think that coltan, the thing that's powering the phone that they're on, they're calling it vibranium. That's how far off we are as a people. The very single thing, right, that gives power to the phone that people are holding to see the image, they don't even know what mineral that is. In Congo's where our real magic comes from, and you don't understand that you're participating in the magic. And look, it may be even that much more powerful because the goddamn baby's done bled on it. That might be the motherfucking juju that's so necessary to make this shit a fucking a black mirror and a trestle. And the thing that I keep telling you, I can show you how to work this motherfucking phone, but y'all rather be entertained, right? I already, when Black Panther came through, I said, look, we giving all this information about the real Wakanda, which is the spirit of the Americas and how it ties in the Jaguar clan and the whole priesthood of the Pantera or the Panther, how it ties Kemet to over here in Peru or Jerusalem and all of this stuff, all of this information that will really free you up. And niggas wanted to go and get their money to Stan Lee and Marvel to see the fantasy of Wakanda and call coltan and cobalt vibranium. Rather than say, yo, Blue, I'm going with you to the motherfucking gym show in Arizona so I can get me some coltan and make a connection with one of these miners so we could go there with a paramilitary situation and securitize the coltan and the cobalt and make a killing. And really stand up to the quote-unquote white man and really hold our nuts to the Japanese and the Chinese and the Russians and really show this dominance of how you can unify the continents and really get in our bags and grow some legacy. But no, niggas is just going to indulge in fantasy over and over and over and over and over again. Right? And castigate the very thing that they come from, which is darkness, in place of light, which they put here and it's artificial. If you take the sun away, it takes 8 minutes for the sun to get here. The sun didn't come with the planet, right? It's like batteries not included, nigga. But you scared of the darkness. But that's all this planet is. You ever been in this bitch at night? In the back roads? Huh? You gotta really, that's when you have to find your peace. You gotta be so at peace, nigga, that the animals see your vibration and your energy and know that you're not in fear. That's the only way that you're gonna survive. You gotta go through the darkness. And this is what religion did to you. So, yeah, when in Rome, 213. Do you see the 44? That's the 44th day of the year. How mathematically precise did it adds up? 213. 1 and 3 equals 4. The 2 4s on the 23rd is when we going in, right? Epic and prophetic. The lecture's going to be unlike any other. You need to be there, right? Because we already showing receipts before we get there. Look, it ain't even been a month. I told you, down with the Dems, right? For what they did in St. Croix, which St. Croix means the cross. It means St. Cross. You know, that's my people's birthland. It means the Twin Islands. Biden gonna go over there and violate. I'm like, nah, he's out of here. It ain't even been 1 month and he's out of here. But y'all would rather deal with fantasy. Y'all would rather deal with the illusion, right? That's where people is most comfortable. That's where they feel safest at. But real shit, y'all run from that, right? Y'all don't want to deal with it. Look, we was watching Godfather of Harlem last night. That's the next clip I'm going to put up. How you niggas is so Americans and not from Africa, but a motherfucking Spaniard, right, or a Puerto Rican in Puerto Rico or Cuba could tap into your Africanness through Santeria, right, and use them shells and know enough that they got to go to your ancestors for divination purposes to get consultations and confirmations on real life decisions, right? But again, your ass can't tell me what is your magical system over here. And I'm not saying that you're not from here, right? I'm just saying you just on the surface with it. What's your diet? What's your customs and traditions? And what's your magical system, nigga? What do you use for protection? And how do you consult your ancestors and feed them? That's all I need to know. Other than that, you on Instagram doing that shit for motherfucking likes. Hence the fact that none of them niggas are showing their fakes. Everybody got a fucking meme page, nigga. If you so indigenous, show your motherfucking indigenous self. Nigga. Especially if you up there knocking where other people say that they from and trying to make a connection with their ancestors to get some shit done. And you holding the phone that got the goddamn mineral that comes from the place that you say that you not from. Put the phone down, nigga. That's all I'm saying. This shit got to stop.
And they out here unapologetically all on TikTok, all
Yeah.
on Instagram, whole ceremonies.
The Cubans is going. The so-called Jews is going. The Hispanics, everyone that's over here that you say is $5 India, they got enough fucking African in their blood to make some magic happen. Right? But your ass want to be a meme Indian. Fuck out of here, nigga. Hey, meme Moors. Use a meme Moor. Demonstrate. Show the people the way. That's how you lead. You feel me? You don't do it from hiding behind a computer screen that's charged up by Cobalt and Coltan and you shitting on the very place that them things come from. How you think the phone gonna work in your favor? It's not, nigga. It can hear you. It knows your thoughts. And it's running with AI now. Nigga, you gonna be the first person in the ops. It's like this nigga don't have no respect. This nigga don't even understand the binary system of the African motherfucking energy that's going into running this phone, let alone the minerals, goddamn, the binary system. How dare you niggas?
That was some non-binary.
How dare you niggas? Yeah, now this whole shit over here is non-binary and you niggas is woke. Because you want to disrespect binary systems on a binary system. Now you niggas is non-binary. And the whole fucking globe is against that shit. Like, oh no, we ain't fucking with them. Yeah, flush the toilet on America. Look at this shit. How dare they? Come on, y'all. But we showing you how to use these phones to be like, yo, you don't even gotta go and they miss some motherfucking, you can, yeah. But rather than this, right? This the energy, unfortunately, that the majority of these children were indoctrinated by individuals such as this. And this became your culture, right? Because this is what's programming the children through Americanism. So, I know my homegirl and shit, her husband, a nigga wears black finger paint on his nails and he wears chains on his necks. And they into BDSM and all of that shit. And they parents of a child, a little child, she on Facebook, on Instagram, showing her pussy to the world. And look, if that's your idea of empowerment, if that's how you gonna get it, if that's how you choose to open up your portal and invite the rest of the world into your shit, then so be it. I don't see the revolution in that though. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying, well, goddamn.
Again, it goes back to as long as you know what you're doing it for, because there is power in that, right? There's power in your sexuality. There's power in the darkness. That's the creative energy that gets us all here. But if you are just putting it out there for display or aesthetics or likes or to make people perceive you in a certain way, be honest with yourself that that's what you're doing, or actually utilize that shit to make some shit pop off. Just like this whole culture and the whole Young Miami thing. If that's what you want to do, cool. But why is it that whenever you give your pussy to somebody, you making them weak? Why is your pussy not making a nigga strong? Why is your pussy not so good that it's making a nigga make changes in his life or in the world? Why is it that every time you give your pussy to somebody, they weak, they come out their pockets, they disoriented,
they discombobulated, nigga getting killed or going to the feds.
So again, to me, it looks like
why
it's
your pussy ain't the
that
juju that the nigga go through to get out of the motherfucking mix? Why that ain't the hoodoo?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I gotta go to this ho-ho to get some of her hoodoo. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't gotta go to them folks because she could put some of that pussy juice on me and make me invincible. I'm going up and down, the motherfucking I-9 the turnpike with these bricks. Cause she sprinkle some of that that pussy juice on me.
And that's what it should be.
Exactly.
If I'm gonna do it, if my pussy's so good.
If you the head hoe, if you the hoe that's demanding the demons is bowing to your motherfucking pussy because it's that bad, you are really the baddest of bad bitches.
Okay.
They missing the magic.
Ain't nobody pussy good enough to make a nigga stand up against the police. Niggas are still running from police. They shooting at niggas on the highway, but they running from the cops. Your pussy's not that good. You sharing it with 10 other bitches, and you getting peed on. Whether you like that or not, even if that's what you like, there's no judgment to that. But that shit should still be empowering both of y'all enough to really be doing some shit. That's right. The magic. So if you utilizing your magic to do some.
And then women will shirk at the fact that R. Kelly was shitting on women. But the women that they follow on social media is getting flew out to Dubai to get shitted on. So it's like, I'm just saying let's have a real conversation so you can see this shit so we don't raise these babies backward and lopsided the same way. They can make conscientious decisions to say, yeah, I want to get doo-dooed on. You know what I'm saying? I like that potty and all of that, and I grew up with it, and I still want to get pottied on. You know what I'm saying? If we're going to raise a potty culture, then let's just be honest about it. So we can make it a thing and make some bread off of it, and have potty centers for our children, and then their parents, because now the parents are wearing diapers, right? So then it could be a whole thing. You could have a whole potty community. You feel me? And it could be the potty and the pissy community, and then you gotta own that shit. You become the face of it. You market it. You brand it. Get Motor Scott involved. Get a whole reality show going. You know what I'm saying? And make it make sense.
Exactly. But
don't be at the bottom of the toilet of the potty culture.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Exactly.
You potty in private. No potty in public.
Exactly.
Right? Let us know what it's hitting for. Somebody make a potty soundtrack. You know what I'm saying? Just like they did with groceries. They make a word for it. Make a word for it, and they made it a cultural trend. Now niggas is out here eating booty like groceries, right? Because somebody understood how to make it culture. and tap into Americanism. And they like, you know what? I can make a bag off this.
And so this is the thing that gets me with entertainment.
Now.
Again, like I'm saying, because in order for you to be in those spaces and to be directors and creators and producers, you have to understand what this thing, the effect that it does have. So I think we were having that conversation at one point about, like you say, the shows that you were watching versus what I grew up on versus what your parents grew up on.
Different conditioning, yes.
And so, yes, those conditions, in my perspective, were created to cause an illusion of disconnect between the generations. So we're all looking at each other crazy. We don't really know where to help each other at because we're busy pointing fingers and judging one another. And at the same time, this medium is being utilized to make you create your own demise, ultimately, because the entertainment will say that, oh, it's just entertainment, but we're acting it out in real life. Just like these girls are saying certain shit, but they're not living that in real life. But the other girls in real life they're acting it out now because they think that's what it should be. So, like, even at Ariana, this girl was on Disney Channel. I forgot what show she was on. My little cousins used to watch this show, and I remember she was like the ditzy. She was supposed to be like the dumb girl with the red hair, but she could sing really well outside of that.
Right.
They turned her into this star. She looked very young. They packaged her like a child and then was doing this shit. They put the bunny ears on her after Mac Miller died. And you saw this whole, especially with the white girls, because I grew up around white children as well, that whole shift into making them feel comfortable enough to for this. Right? And now we have
this comes on the tail end of 50 Grades of Shade, right?
50 Shades of Grey. And just all of this really sexually explicit content, again, not educating women on the power of their sexuality, but more so to utilize it for attention. That's what it's become. It's become that your sexuality is used to get attention. You don't even understand the magic that your sexuality really has. The darker you get with your sexuality, the more magical your shit's supposed to be. And look at what you're creating. So the danger, what comes with the entertainment is that none of it is real, but you're making it real. Right? Like, none of that exists. They write it out. And when you get on the set, it really breaks your heart because you're like, damn, this shit is like one piece of cardboard and 15 cameras and lights. None of it is actual factual. But once I see it on my screen, I want to be that. And then I create that. So, again, it's like the devil shit. I ain't do shit. Like Devil's Advocate, I ain't do nothing. They did that on their own.
Right. That's how they escape the whole aspect of the karmic. They escape the karmic cycles by saying, hey, I ain't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? But they operate with the art of persuasion and you buy into it, right? You're eating the apple off the tree. I ain't forced it on you. Right? I ain't forced it down your... I just made a suggestion. I just made it sound attractive because I'm an elegant demon.
That hits your switches.
Right? That knows how to hit your switches because I'm a little bit more intelligent and I know psychology better than you do. I'm older. I've been around. So it's almost like the older man who's priming it's almost on some Andrew Tate shit.
No, literally.
Hence the fact, etymologically, his number is 666. Right? In Gematria, they got mad at me. I'm like, hey, is he not propositioned as a Muslim man? Right? If you are deflowering a woman, she is your wife. If you lay down with a woman, she is your wife. You don't run around deflowering women, leaving them, traumatizing them, and then putting them into, the porn industry, and then teaching young men how to do the same thing, my niggas. Like, this is what I'm saying, young men, brothers, specifically and especially. That ain't it, my niggas. Like, that's not how we was raised.
Not get caught up.
And I'm not, again, I can't be judgmental because I don't know your life. I don't know where you come from. And we do have a level of a generational divide. I'm like, that ain't where I come from, no. Like, that's not how the big homies, how our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, right? These niggas might have been doing, pimpery on the side of shit like that. And they was finesse masters. But it was the exception and not the rule. Nobody had enough audacity to live in front of the camera and think that shit was acceptable, that they could pull that roost, right? Nigga, that's pimping 101.
But where does that, as a man, could you say, where does that mentality comes from?
From pimping?
No, I mean pimping.
Okay, so the again, post 1960s, right? After MLK dies, after the fear factor of seeing leadership die, I can't do nothing with this quote unquote white man, so I'm gonna acquiesce to the program. I got what he want, which is black pussy. Remember, the only thing that changes with integration is now access to sex without the stigma. The only thing that changes, right? Because you go to work now to be sexualized, right? And the only difference is black men don't swing from a vine from having white women swinging from their Johnsons. And then white men can now fetish on you without having to do it shamefully. That's the only thing that changed. Because what did it say? Statistically, dealing with the financial iotas, we are in the same place. I think that the brother explains that perfectly better than I can, Dr. Claude Anderson. So the only thing that changes is the interchangeability of the sexes and the intermixing and the intermarrying, the intermingling, right, of the races and the, you know what I'm saying? And now I guess with the sexes, because later on civil rights becomes something that now benefits LGBT, and they're showing you what they're doing with that.
Shout out to Bobby.
Right. So the falling of the stigmatizations is what these legislations bring, right? Quote unquote, law can do that. Man can do that by the stroke of a pen. Hence the fact the pen is mightier than the sword, because you couldn't fight in a war to do it, because you would have to have a whole religious war to do it. But with the stroke of a pen, now the shit is mandated. We know that it's not quote unquote law if you know law, right? But because all law allegedly supposed to be based on ecclesiastical principles, law and religion, or politics and religion, is tied hand in hand. What is law without religion? Think about it. Think about it. Right? Yeah. And then because the quote unquote white child was able to express their sexual liberation in the 60s by way of drugs, our children didn't get that. They were still trapped in the church. So they never got to scream. They never got to let their hair down. And that happened more so in the 70s, post-civil rights, right? Once the leaders was killed, the men went to the army to fight the very person who they said was oppressing them, right? And the women got a little bit more looser. And then disco and all of that shit starts happening. And they start experimenting with cocaine. And then they get primed for all of these other things. So then the men start pimping them, right? Oh, you want some of this? You feel me? And in the movies, Superfly in particular, the Mac and all of those things, my father said they went into the movies with afros and dashikis and they came out with silk shirts and perms. So that's where it happened. And then the indoctrination comes by way of the gangster. So the pimp and the gangster is who, as they're showing you in the Godfather of Harlem, when the Italians, look, Lucky Luciano makes a deal with the government of the United States during World War II to open up North Italy to allow the troops in so they can run down on Hitler and them or Mussolini and them from the blind side. As a result, he had to go and speak to the big bosses in Italy. He was in jail at the time, right? And then when they sprung him loose, they turned a blind eye and they allowed him to deal with the I think it was the French Connection. He started getting dope, very pure dope, from the Turks, and he was able to bring a level of heroin over here that had not been exposed to our community ever before, and do it to such a magnitude. Again, once he hooks up with the Harlem gangs, the Bumpy Johnsons and them, it becomes such a situation where they could not afford to not control it, right? Oh, yeah, my computer